we are a nation of foodies. We will queue 40 minutes for Michelin-starred chicken rice, and we are usually scrolling through some food delivery app to check out our options for dinner before we have even finished our lunch. In a city where resources are this abundant, it's easy to assume that no one is actually going hungry.
When we think about food insecurity in that sense, it's very hard to imagine how it really looks like because, when we look around Singapore, right, a lot of people would think that, people go hungry. It can't be because we see food all over. But yet, I think accessibility does not always mean access to food.
Food insecurity is largely invisible. Hunger is not written on our faces. It could be someone that's walking with us along the street, next to us on the MRT. It can happen to anyone.
That's where over 140 ground-up groups, welfare and religious organizations, and food charities that come in to do the hard work of filling in the gaps. But because there's so many of them, it is actually quite hard to see the big picture.
As the nation's only accredited member of the Global Food Banking Network, we collectively felt it was important to move beyond anecdotal observations and obtain a clearer, evidence-based understanding of how the system is functioning today. This is also a way for us to give back to the food charity sector by helping to provide evidence that will allow for the development of food programs that better align with impact.
There's always number of providers.
To get that data, the Food Bank Singapore commissioned the National University of Singapore to produce Hunger Report 3. They spoke to staff, volunteers and beneficiaries across Singapore to map out the landscape of food support in 2025. And what they found shows that providing food support is more complicated than it seems.
So in the previous Hunger Report 1 and 2, they focus on who needed help and what household experience. So in this third report, we wanted to focus more on the how the food support ecosystem actually functions, their constraints, coordination challenges, and potential gaps.
One of the report's key findings is that food support usually follows a familiar path towards the groups that are simply more visible.
If I look at, say, the seniors or individuals with disabilities, generally speaking, they are more visible and to a large extent, they are quite well served.
But even with that support, the daily calculation of what a family can afford is getting a lot tougher. The rising costs have turned every budget into a constant balancing act.
So in this case here, we're dealing with families that have limited choices in the sense of the incomes that they receive. So the financial stress that they are facing is that whether should they go with milk powder for their children or paying utilities. So a lot of all these is a constraint for them that they are facing on a daily basis.
Either you cook soup, Apple can cook soup, you cook soup, or you make jam.
Dry rations and grocery support are what the report refers to as cost of living relief.
在这边拿东西好像可以帮助我们家里的生活开支啦，不会这么压力这么大。
They act as a buffer and help families stretch their budgets so that they can afford other necessities.
I got sardine and rice and egg. I very thank you. They give me food for 1 month eat.
Everyone wants to provide healthier fresh food, but fresh food needs cold storage and rapid delivery, things many smaller volunteer-run groups simply don't have. Hunger Report 3 shows that canned food and dry rations were distributed by over 60% of the food providers surveyed. Where storage is an issue, shelf life often becomes the priority simply because the infrastructure for fresh food isn't there.
To have a balanced diet, a more nutritious kind of diet, they want fresh produce. But that will be one of the biggest challenges because we don't have cold storage here.
Still, some have found a workaround. As long as the long queues show, the appetite for fresh produce is not going away anytime soon.
This one, the center stream. Because most of them actually cook at home, especially the elderly. If you give them canned food too much, they also cannot open, no strength to open.
It's clearly about more than just the groceries. It's the camaraderie. But to make this kind of impact possible on the ground, Even the most passionate groups need a reliable backbone to keep the supplies flowing.
Food Bank Singapore has provided us with the food rations for us to actually use that as a leverage to connect with beneficiaries. So the collaboration allows both agencies to have a further reach of the people who really do need the food itself.
For here, the beneficiaries, besides taking for their own, they actually have to serve at least 5 units. They have to serve the block residents there, which is unable to come down to receive the help from us. They might need food, but they cannot come down. Mobility issues.
For many, this food support is the ultimate door opener. It builds a level of trust that goes beyond just the meal, acting as a bridge for these seniors to break their isolation and reconnect with the community.
Today I got new friend. 2 months ago I got one more friend. Chinese, Malay, Indian, all I friend. Yes, friend.
I think another thing that's also important is for these families to build a connection with each other. Here is a great platform for them to actually come down and actually talk to them. And some neighbors actually help some others to come and get their food. So that's really a good thing.
That sense of belonging is what keeps these blocks alive. But for every bag of food that reaches a resident, there's a huge invisible operation working behind the scenes. Satish travels once a week, island-wide, to pick up the food collected in the food bank boxes. It's part of his job that he's been doing at the Food Bank Singapore.
We need to go a few more locations to collect our donation.
The Food Bank Singapore focuses on rescuing food over buying it. The food bank boxes are designed to collect edible food surplus and for distribution to the community instead of letting it go to waste. But every time the team collects the food from these boxes, they never know what they're going to find.
Biscuit, coffee mix, tea mix. Try to receive all the non-perishable food items.
So some people treat this like a rubbish bin. This is a half-eaten biscuit pack, which they just dump it here.
This bread is a good example. People sometimes donate perishable bread also.
Sorting through trash is frustrating, but the sheer physical demand is a real challenge. From driving vans to moving crates, we are currently relying on a dedicated but aging workforce to handle the manual labor.
Come. Okay, put down first.
困难就是上下货而已，因为我们的人力有限，全部都是女生比较多，没有男生。所以我们罗里来的时候，来货的时候，上货下货就比较希望有点年轻的人了。好像我们这些安迪啊，就你知道刚上刚下就不行了。
The numbers show that over 67% of these organizations have fewer than 10 staff members to run everything. When you are that understaffed, there's only so much help you can physically get out to the community.
Because we are dependent on volunteers, it means that we can only do this once a month. Okay, we wish we could do more. But if we can give them, on a weekly basis, then I think the impact will be much greater.
But creating that kind of impact isn't just about the food itself. It's about the unglamorous, everyday infrastructure that keeps the system running.
When individuals think about food support or food charities, the work that we do, very often we think about the food. But the matter of fact is that food distribution requires a significant amount of infrastructure and processes. As we all know, food cannot walk on its own. For us, we collect the food, we need a warehouse to store the food, to inventory, so we need a whole lot of manpower. And of course, we need a logistics team to ensure that the food gets from our warehouse to our different beneficiary partners in time so that the food quality is maintained.
So we actually need metal cabinet fridges we need a lot of lorries a lot of cars because we actually need to go and collect a lot of things in one time.
The Hunger Report shows that for most food providers, the biggest hurdle isn't just the donations, it's the storage, transport, and the rising cost of keeping it all moving.
When providers aren't constantly worrying about operating costs, they can strengthen programs and evaluate their outcomes so that the support can become more effective and sustainable.
But for now, the reality on the ground is a lot less structured. Without a central system, how does the food actually find the people who need it? Most of the time, it comes down to a someone knows someone network.
很多受益者也是很多人也出来帮忙互相互助这样
These personal connections are the lifeblood of our estates, but they're also fragile and fragmented. Relying on individual favours means that support can be inconsistent.
Many providers are doing good work, but often in parallel rather than as a system. They do want to have more coordinations, but because of the lack of resources, shared data, and coordination platform, they are not able to coordinate as much as they would like to. Better coordination would mean less missed family, less overlaps, and more reliable support.
The challenges are real, but the mission doesn't have a pause button. While we work on fixing the system, the needs of our communities continue in real time. We can't wait for the perfect solution before we act. This is where targeted efforts like the Back to School Support Program and the Meals Forward Program play their part. The Back to School Support Program provides food and stationery support to school-going children from lower-income families, while the Meals Forward Program targets tertiary students from lower-income households with prepaid meal credits that are redeemable at selected F&B outlets. Both programs are direct responses to the finding that more visible groups like the elderly tend to receive more food support, and that more can be done for less visible groups.
If charities remain transparent, well-governed, and mission-focused, the food support ecosystem in Singapore will continue to evolve and remain resilient in the years ahead.
At the end of the day, providing food support in Singapore isn't just about the volume of food that we give. It's about giving smarter. Food might not be able to walk on its own, but when we work together, we can get it to where it needs to go.